there is a reconciliation that has to happen with each spouse to Jesus way before there is ever a reconciliation to one another.
Run to me with your pain, run to me with your sadness, and let's walk this journey together. And so there was a moment where I had to realize, okay, I need to just focus on me and the Lord.
This isn't about stopping pornography, stopping masturbation. This was about, man, who am I? Am I living in my identity in Christ? Or am I constantly going to idol worship to cope with all these underlying fears and these feelings that I never learned how to manage?
What if everything you've been taught about sexuality is only half the story? You've heard that sex is a gift, but in your life, you've experienced more sexual pain than celebration. My name is Matt Klein, and I'm your host. Welcome to the Exposed Life Show, where we explore God's true design for sexuality, bring darkness to light, and discover Jesus at the center of it all. Let's go. Clint and Charity Munoz, Restored to More. Man, I'm pumped to have you guys on. Not only are you guys awesome, but you're friends. And it's funny, this virtual world, it's like this Zoom world. You got all these Zoom friends, but then we get to meet. We get to meet and hang out in person like we did a couple months ago. It was a blast.
That was awesome, man. I mean, we've been we like have had Zooms. We were even like in a guys group for a little while, like then in this industry. We were talking like once a week on like one of those apps. And then it was like, boom, you were there. And I was like, wow, you're so much taller in person than I thought, you know?
You were really tall, I agree.
That's so funny. You're making it sound like I'm like 6'9". Everyone's like,
Yeah.
whoa, how tall is he?
6'8's pretty close.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, that was fun. Our team just had so much fun with you guys. And so for your listeners, Clint and Charity, they run Restored to More, helping couples go through betrayal, sexual sin, and come back to see marriage restored to more. And you guys, that's your story. And so many people that you've worked with, people that we've referred to you in the past, have been really impacted. And so, yeah, so much gold. I'm excited for this. Why don't you share a little bit about who you guys are? I introed a little bit, but expand on that and let the viewers know what you want them to know about you guys.
Sure. Well, I can share some fun things. So we live in Southern California. We've been married for 13 years and we have 3 boys, age 9, 8, and 6. So it's wild over here. Lots of dance parties, lots of Nerf gun bullets everywhere. Yeah. It's a joy. It's really fun. I wouldn't have it any other way. We love to surf and fish on the weekends, and God is really good.
Yeah, our ministry came out. We started in 2020, came out of our own story. I mean, our own brokenness and my own struggle with pornography since I was 11 years old, and just not getting the right resources early on was a huge part of our passion for this kind of work. And then really where Restored to More started was even in recovery as a couple, we felt like we were given tools individually, but never tools relationally. And so there was a big gap. The stats kind of prove that almost half of the marriages that have betrayal take place end in divorce. And there, what we found was more of a statistic that we kind of figured out on our own, just from what we were doing, interviewing for help, was that a lot of couples that had been in recovery never experienced restoration. They didn't experience this abundant life after betrayal. They experienced this like, oh, okay, we just have to settle for us sleeping in separate bedrooms, or a lack of intimacy, a lack of connection. And when we prayed about it, we felt like, no, God wanted to do something way beyond what we could ever ask, think, or imagine in our own marriage. And once we started to experience that, God was like, great, I showed you that so that you could tell others about it. And I was like, oh, dang it. Because honestly, we never wanted to be in full-time ministry. I mean, that was never our plan. It was like, wait, Lord. But when God helps us experience something so amazing, like, of course, we want to talk about it. I just didn't think we'd do it full-time. So,
and then you're in ministry and got to talk about your greatest failure, eh?
Absolutely. My most utter brokenness. Yeah.
Oh man, I remember when God called me to do this, I was like, how could I do this and not tell my parents? Because I had never opened up to my parents before. That didn't work.
Yeah.
But, no, it's awesome. I saw you got a big catch, Charity, on the weekend too, speaking of fishing. Man, that was fun.
She's out fishing me every time we go now. I don't even know if I just expect to tie her hooks and help her out most of the time.
I am. It's super
really
fun.
That's awesome. You went from Idaho to SoCal, and now I'm just picturing you guys surfing all the time. So I was surprised you're fishing, but I guess you got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, but what we do normally is, like, we'll surf after church on Sunday, and then we'll stay there all day and have, like, lunch, and then by the time, like, sunset's coming in, we're like, "Okay, let's go to the pier and let's go fish." So it's like that's literally what I wanted to do for Mother's Day. I said, "I want to go to church, and then I wanna spend all day at the beach. I wanna have pizza, I wanna surf, and then we're gonna go to the pier and go night fishing," and it was so fun.
I was
What a
like, "You talking
life.
about Mother's Day or Father's Day?" Because it felt like a Father's Day, you know what I'm saying? So it was great.
You married the right girl.
Yeah, I'm pretty blessed, man. Very blessed.
That's awesome. Up here in Edmonton, we got like 12 Sundays a year where we walk out of church and it's like, oh, it's nice out. What are we going to do? And we got to move down there. I love it. All right. But you got a new course coming out, or it's coming already. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
talk about the course. What's it called? And what can people expect if they go through it?
Yeah. So for the past, I would say like 4 years, we started in ministry with the podcast. And then we had a lot of couples being like, hey, how'd you get there? How'd you get there? How'd you get there? Which initially was us too. I mean, I believe that there were some couples maybe who were restored. Just nobody was talking about it. Like I remember like Googling like couples restored and
Yeah.
there was no roadmap, right? Like I couldn't open up the Bible and be like, roadmap, but when my husband does this, and has a sexual addiction. I have PTSD. What do I do? How do we build that relationship together? And so our story was we started the podcast, couples were reaching out, and we just started like doing little like 8-week workshop, 6-week workshop, 12-week workshop. And then after leading groups for a while, we really had a PDF that we were like, okay, this is good. It has the core topics that we really believe need to be discussed in couples recovery. And just recently, this past year, we raised enough funds to finally get it to print and get a graphic designer and a publisher and a videographer. So, our course is an 8-week course that has video accompaniment and questions for the betrayed spouse, for the unfaithful spouse. They watch a video series together, they answer questions separately, and they talk about the discussion together. And then they meet up with a group leader and 4 other couples weekly to discuss what they had learned about themselves and about each other, to really build that community with other people in a safe environment.
Yeah, just to add to that, Matt, I think we really wanted 3 things. We wanted it to be biblically based, we wanted it to be trauma informed, and we also wanted the neuroscience piece of it integrated within one course. We felt like there was a lot of material that did one thing, like, oh, it really educated us based off of neuroscience, or oh, it was a lot of trauma informed tools and a perspective for the betrayed spouse, but it didn't hold a space for both. And then if they did have those, they weren't really biblically based. And so we really were like, okay, we felt like the Lord was prompting us to create something that really had all 3 of those key components to it. And so that's really what we did was like, all right, how do we combine everything the Bible says, but in a way that is going to be received well from a couple, right? And from both spouses, because we felt like the unfaithful spouse needs to be educated on betrayal trauma in order for the relationship to heal. But it's equally as important that the betrayed spouse learns about the unfaithful spouse and the addictive behaviors and the patterns, and probably more so the root causes and the brokenness of the heart that leads to behavioral patterns in the first place. And so then they could have compassion for one another. They could begin to understand and have a lens as to see the other person going, okay, I know how you got here. It makes perfect sense, your response to what's going on. And there's a way that I can support you in your healing journey. Again, we don't want couples to be accountability partners for one another. Don't hear what I'm not saying, right? I'm not saying that the spouse should be like the accountability partner of the guy who has an addict, like, or who has addiction. Like, that's not the point at all. But there is an understanding that both spouses can have on what their spouse is going to go through and grow through and heal through in order to experience restoration individually. And there's a way to do that as a couple so that they have the best chance ever at experiencing restoration in their relationship as well.
That's so good. It's well rounded. And what I love about couples work is that it builds this intimacy that is so deep and cool. And that's why you can be restored to more, because it's not just an intimacy like you had before. It's this
Yes.
intimacy that's deeper. And I mean, you think of like Genesis 4:1, like they knew each other. There's this deep knowing of husbands and wives that they can have when you go through this, and there's an opportunity in all the pain. But I love that you go through the 3 different categories, and I would love if you give some context to that. Like, what is it? What the biblically based perspective?
Yeah.
What do couples need to know about that sometimes we miss out on?
Wow. That's so powerful. makes me think of our first couple chapters, right? Because our first we have 8 weeks, and so the first couple weeks, and this is like I'll just tell it from a very personal standpoint, very personal story, and why it's been impactful to us personally, and then also so many other couples that have gone through our course. I didn't realize, Matt, that there was a biblical basis for restoration. So I knew that Charity had a biblical basis for divorce, like no doubt about it. Betrayal took place. I went outside of our wedding vows. I acted out. Some people question that, whether if it's pornography, does that still mean the same thing? All right, I get it. Everyone's convictions are going to be different. But for us, there were boundaries that were crossed that were beyond pornography that were like, yeah, she could totally leave. And even if it was just pornography, we actually believe like, man, that's a total form of cheating, total form of infidelity, of breaking trust. And so I knew there were grounds for that. But what could God do about restoration? Like, did he want us to restore our relationship? Would he be with us? Would he provide what we needed to restore? And I think when I read about Jesus talking about, man, the grounds for divorce were given through Moses because there was just this hardness of heart that can take place. And I think that even in my own story, regardless of Charity in her own heart, my heart had to be really, really soft to change. I don't think that Charity, I don't think she should have stayed with me if I didn't have significant heart change. It's not about omitting behavior. This isn't about stopping pornography, stopping masturbation. This was about, man, who am I? Am I living in my identity in Christ? Or am I constantly going to idol worship to cope with all these underlying fears and these feelings that I never learned how to manage? And so for me, it was this willingness to go, God, I want you to radically transform my heart. I need you to show up in a way that makes me have a different operating system, right? My computer right now is like, you need to upgrade your operating system. Well, I needed a big operating system upgrade on my life because most of my life, I only knew how to deal with these big emotions one way. And so not only were there like things that I needed to turn to for the Bible for like restoring us, but what about restoring my heart? And what we've seen over and over again with couples is that there is a reconciliation that has to happen with each spouse to Jesus way before there is ever a reconciliation to one another. And so God was calling me to really be humble and vulnerable and open up to other guys in my life to find my own recovery plan and my own journey and go, God, I need to own that my heart needs surgery. I need to own a recovery journey. I need to find the right therapist, the right counselors. And we talk a lot about that in our course, that a marriage is only going to work if each spouse owns their journey with Jesus, their journey of recovery, their journey with healing, their journey with uncovering the underlying trauma that they might be trying to cope with. And that was my part of like what I had to own. And so there was a ton of biblical basis for not only what God could do with us, but how God wanted to renovate my heart, taking out this heart of stone and putting in a heart of flesh, helping me understand the verses that talk about confessing my sin to other people because I had never done that. I'd never jumped into a recovery group before. I had never submitted to the process of recovery. And the Bible talks so much about that. And so we hit on a lot of what that looks like. I mean, that's like a snippet of it, but we hit on a lot of that in our course.
Cool.
Mm.
Charity, what about for you? How is the Bible central in the journey that you want women to go through? Or
Yeah.
just the betrayed spouse? Could be either one.
Yeah. Well, for me, I feel like what I'm constantly telling wives that reach out is, hey, like, don't look at your husband's track record because it's proven to fail.
Mm.
Look at God's track record because his track record is not. It's faithful and he has always been there and he is not going to let you down. And so I think for me, what I had to realize there was a pivotal point in my recovery where I remember being really angry with the Lord and wrestling with him and crying out to him because Clinton had just had a relapse. And I remember being so just vulnerable and heartbroken and just crying and just so angry at him. Like, how could you allow this to happen? How could this be my life? Look at what I've done for you, and I thought you were going to give me this blessing. And I just remember the Lord gently saying, lean into me in this season. And even though man has continually failed you, your parents have hurt you, you've gone through trauma, sexual abuse, I will not fail you. I've been there through it all. I've never once turned my back on you. I've caught every tear. And lean into me in this season and run to me with your pain, run to me with your sadness, and let's walk this journey together. And so there was a moment where I had to realize, okay, I need to just focus on me and the Lord. And wherever I end up after that is where I end up. But that's what God was calling me to in that moment. And so I really want wives to just walk with the Lord in this season. You
Mm.
don't need to try and figure it out. You don't need to try and get answers. Just walk with the Lord in this season. Bring him all of your pain. Bring him your hard questions. Wrestle with him in the season. And then what is he saying? And how is he going to show up for you? How is he going to heal you in this season? And how does he want to speak to you and speak truth over you? Because the things that are going to help you in recovery, in my opinion, is going to be Christ. Like when I have a trigger, I ran to the Lord. Like, yes, I did neuroscience of deep breathing and taking my anxious thoughts and getting grounded and then listening to worship music and saying things I'm grateful for. And I brought the lies and the core beliefs that I was believing from the trigger, taking that to the Lord of, Lord, I don't feel good enough. That core belief from when my parents were 7, when they got divorced, I started to believe this, I'm not good enough, was then amplified when my husband, went outside of marriage and had this whole thing, I'm not good enough. So now when I'm triggered, my biggest thing is I'm not good enough. So I take that to Christ, and then Christ gets to renew my thoughts. He gets to renew every little part of me. I had a whole app on my phone of just verses that I knew that the Lord was speaking over to me. When I got triggered, immediately I went there and I filled my mind with scripture. And so I really believe that if women are able to, again, stop looking at their husband and what he is or isn't doing and start looking to Christ, I really believe that they're going to get the lasting healing that God is calling them to. And they're going to be able to rise up into who he's calling you to be. And then you can make the whatever decision you want to make. But do that first. Do that
Mm.
necessary healing work first.
Amazing. Amazing. That's so good. Yeah, I agree. I've seen so many women that are on the verge of leaving, and then they're like, but then God spoke to me and,
Mm.
give them another chance or whatever it might be. And the process of rebuilding trust when you're looking at him, it seems impossible or
Mhm.
at the very least a mountain. But when you just look to the Lord, he can do that. So
Yeah.
what did that look like for trust to be rebuilt? When you
Mm.
looked at Clint, you're like, okay, I can trust him. I mean,
Mm.
it could be different lengths of time for different people, but you're looking to the Lord. But how did that transfer into looking at Clint differently?
Yeah, for sure. Looking to Christ daily, and he really was my daily bread. And there was definitely moments, opportunities is what we call them, like little
Trust blocks?
trust blocks. Thank you. Trust blocks and opportunities. I really believe that a husband is given every day sometimes and weekly sometimes. And so, what I mean by that is something that helped us was we came up with yes to requests if they were reasonable. And so, what we mean by that is for me, what I needed to feel safe was I really needed him to answer his phone when I called him and if he was outside of the house. And there's a moment in our recovery that we've talked about many times, but it's a good story is there was one night when Clinton was going to go play tennis and he went and played tennis with some guys and now it's getting really late and I'm thinking like gosh, I feel like I would have heard from him like how come he's not home yet? And I called him, no answer. I left a voicemail, no answer. His Life 360 app was completely shut down. So I was like he's acting out. Like there's no way. He's completely relapsed and I can't believe this right now. So now I'm in Triggerland. Like I am already spiraled. It's done. So he comes home and he's sweaty. Like he looks like he just played tennis. But it doesn't matter because no matter what he says, I'm not going to believe him because I am so
It's like the
on
real
the ground.
experience of like the facts don't matter,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
When you're triggered and you're
Yeah.
having a traumatic response to what's happening.
So Clinton realized, right, like, oh shoot, my wife is on the ground. She thinks like she's bombs are going off, right? So no, he knew in that moment, it's not about defending himself right now. It's about how can I make her feel safe. And so the first thing that he said was, what do you need right now in order to feel safe? And he's like, I'll call the guys that I was with. And he looks at his phone and he realizes in that moment, oh my gosh, our kids must have gotten his phone and turned off like whatever it was.
Data was off. I
Well,
wasn't getting any calls, any text message, anything. I just thought,
oh
I
man.
don't know why my phone's not working,
And so in
you
that
know?
moment, I did get to see real life, like, oh, he's experiencing this with me, like but still, I was super triggered. But his response was, it wasn't defensive. It was like, hey, what do you need, and how can I be how can I come alongside you right now? And he's like,
It was bad.
I'll call this guy, like the guy I was playing tennis with, to confirm that I was playing tennis. And he called him. This guy didn't even know our story, like didn't even know anything about Clinton. It was just a buddy he played tennis with. So the fact that he was willing to do that for me was a huge trust block. I mean, it was, and I think men are given multiple opportunities to just say, like, hey, how can I make you feel safe right now? You
Yeah.
know, like, what do you need right now? You know, do you need to go outside and I'll watch the kids for a little bit? There's so many opportunities for men to not be defensive, to be humble and say, yes, you know, like, I will do this. And even if it makes me look stupid, even if it makes me look like I'm, you know, like whatever it is, it really is a huge trust block.
Just to add to that, Matt, that doesn't happen though, unless I think I would have seen Charity through a trauma lens.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't happen if I just feel like she would be controlling. The first time she's like, "All right, you're doing this, you're getting Life 360. I wanna see your location at all times." I'm like, "Wow, micromanage much? I don't deserve this. I shouldn't live in a relationship where you can't trust me." And you know what I mean? I'm like naming off my rights as a husband. I mean, like,
Like, I'm in the light. I've already confessed. Like, I'm just playing tennis now. Like, come on.
yeah,
Yes.
totally, right?
Yeah.
And so I think
Yeah.
there's the reality I think most guys don't grasp.
Yeah.
Then again, if I see her actions as controlling, then my natural response is to get defensive and feel like, "Oh, I want that entitlement and that independence." But if I see her actions as safety-seeking responses, if I can see it through this person who is legit wondering if she's safe or not,
Yeah.
I would do anything to keep my wife safe, right? If all of a sudden we were walking down the street and cars started coming by super fast, like, out of nowhere, I would grab her, put her behind me. I would make sure that she's safe. I mean, we've been in places that all of a sudden, like, something sketchy starts going down, and my first priority is not to abandon her and be like, "Well, figure this out yourself. Okay, I'll see you later. Hopefully you make it out." No, my first response is to keep her safe. But I think that most guys don't react that way and respond that way because they don't realize that their wife is saying out of desperation, "Am I safe right now?" And they're saying, "Can you help me feel safe?" I really believe that if most wives they won't word it that way, but if it were to be worded to them that way, husbands would be like, "Yeah, I'll do anything to make you feel safe. What do you need?" But that takes the first level of education, right? Being educated on what each other is going through helps us respond in a way that has empathy.
Hey, I'm just popping in here mid-episode to say I hope you're loving this content, and if you want more, make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave a comment with something that stood out to you from this episode. Now let's get back to it. Well, it's true, and they won't say it that way, and most of the time they'll say it as an attack,
Yeah, totally.
or the man will take it as an attack, and it's understandable. Like, I'm not saying that in jest at all. Like, it's understandable that they would, but also for a man to, like, guys are like, man, she's asked me the same question 100 times, or she's
Mm,
already seen my phone. Like, why is she asking me this, or
oh,
she's saying this over and over again. Like, nothing I say matters, and it's all frustration and defensive and logic and all that stuff.
yeah.
But it's like, man, when we use the same word, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to make her feel safe and loved and reassured. And when we see it that way, it actually shortens the process of
Yep.
healing rather
Yep.
than
Yeah.
prolonging it, right? And every time that there's a trigger that happens, if you can just see it as the opportunity that it is, it actually leads to intimacy and helps you. I say to guys, it helps you live as a man of honor who's honoring your wife when in the past you never did. And here's
Mhm.
a grand opportunity to show up differently. And we can be so caught up in our emotions or when there's a lack of discipleship or learning, and it's tough. But on the other side, we also have traumas that we can learn about, right? When we've gone to sexual sin, and they might be sexual, they might not be. But I'm curious about your side of it, Clint, with what you went through. Like, what did you learn about associated trauma in your life when you were learning about the porn addiction and all that you
Yeah.
did?
I appreciate that, man, and I love that you're pulling that out because it's so true. Those are opportunities for intimacy, and I think so many people are frustrated at where their marriage is at after betrayal's taken place, but they haven't done the necessary steps to reframe what's going on, right? If there was just that reframing, they would go, "Oh, wow, I can actually shorten the length of a lack of connection," and go, "Wow, we can start to experience intimacy, connection, restoration, all the things." We've talked to so many therapists about this, and all of them are high numbers. It doesn't matter who we talk to. They're like 90%, 99%, 95%, but for some reason, it's always over 90% when a therapist says, "The guys that I see that are dealing with sexual addiction, it's always related to trauma." And I love what a guy recently said was that there are different levels of trauma. It doesn't always mean like they have big T, little t, all these different things. There are certain traumas that are like neglect that are way different than physical abuse, sexual abuse. I think guys commonly are like, "Oh yeah, I wasn't abused, so therefore I don't have any trauma." And I easily could have said that because I was never sexually abused. I was never physically abused. Like those weren't my traumas. Right. So for me, I took a lot of deep diving though, Matt, into like what is underneath this behavior because it's never changed. My behavior has always been the same since I was 11 years old until I'm in my early 20s and I can't stop this cycle. What's going on? And I think that there was no amount of blocks that would stop me. There was no amount of accountability that would hold me back. Like I got a flip phone in college, man. I was like, I'm going to get rid of this addiction. I'm going to go from my Android, whatever it was, to a flip phone. And this was like, I don't know what year this was, 2018, something, not even, no, we got married in 2013. This was 2012, 2011, where like, I'm like, all right, I'm doing this thing, and I'm like on some online program where I have this random accountability guy that I've never met in Indiana, but I was trying hard to stop the behavior. And that's what I want to get
Yeah,
across. I tried so
change,
hard.
changing that behavior.
That's it. I tried
Yeah.
so hard, but nobody ever was like, "Hey, what's underneath the hood that's broken? Like, what is going on in your heart?" And I had to do this deep dive into, well, what was going on in my childhood? What am I missing? What was happening there? And I'm so grateful. I actually did an intensive at a ministry called Faithful and True, where they walked this practice of like called the trauma egg. And I don't know why they call it that. It's an interesting name, to be honest. Like, all right, but anyway, it was like, let's look at my childhood. And for me, on a very personal note, Matt, my dad was a pastor for a lot of my life growing up. And he, for a good stint of 7 years, he was a pastor of a church. And it wasn't a really healthy situation. And my dad and I, thank you, Jesus, we've talked about this. My dad's apologized. He's admitted that these were really unhealthy years of his own life being a pastor. But his priority was that church, and it wasn't our family. And so for me, it felt like neglect. There was emotional needs that went unmet. My physical needs never went unmet, but I felt unseen. I felt unheard. I felt unimportant. And this created this desire for affirmation, for attention, from really anywhere I could get it. And then you pair that with a lot of things going on in my family's life with my mom's health. We moved from one area of the state of California to another. I lost all my friends. I didn't have any association. I felt very unseen. I even felt unsafe in some of those situations with my babysitters and different things. And so there was a lot going on in my formation years that made me feel like I don't have any way of coping with these big emotions of being afraid or neglected or unseen or unimportant or having no sense of belonging to a community. And so I found pornography, and pornography became this amazing way to cope with all of it. And it took all of it away. I no longer felt lonely. I felt seen. I felt valued. I felt like I mattered. I had all these people online that I felt like I was important to, right? That I mattered. They saw me. And we shared this pseudo intimacy, this fake intimacy, but it was there when I didn't have it with people in person. And so I just learned early on that I use this to cope. Or I learned early on how to cope with it, but I couldn't identify that until years later in my 20s going, wow. And I had a therapist that go, Clint, this has been like the perfect drug for you. Like it has met every need. The problem is it has more side effects than the worst commercial on TV when it lasts like a minute long. It's like side effects may include, this was like, oh, side effects may include loss of marriage, loss of children, children's disrespect, loneliness for a lifetime, increased use of pornography and everything else sexual, lack of confidence, lack of identity. I mean, you name it. I had experienced all of those side effects. And I was about to lose my family because of the side effects of the drug that helped me cope with all those ailments early on.
Wild. I'm curious about the side effects of the healing that you went through, of the transformation that you went through, because so often the focus can be on getting rid of the behavior.
Yeah.
Even if we do it in a really deep way, it can still be, hey, let's get rid of porn. Now I'm free of it. I'm good. But man, the side effects of this journey are so transformational and widespread. So can you talk to that?
Oh man, that's so good, man. I love the way you put that. That's good. You want me to start? Okay, I'll go first. Where do I start? There's a verse that we come back to a lot in our course, and it's become like my life verse. And it's where Paul's asking Jesus to take away the thorn in his flesh. And he says, but he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. And I mean, the rest of it's great, boast my weakness, but I don't know that I'm there yet. I don't know that I boast about my weakness. I just accept my weakness. I think, Matt, that's been one of the greatest side effects, is to realize that in my brokenness, God's grace is made perfect. I don't need to be afraid of being broken or being needy. I no longer have to reject the identity of not being enough. Like the reality is I'm not enough. And my whole life I've been running from that, right? My whole life was like perform well, achieve this. When I achieve XYZ, then I'll be loved, then I'll be lovable, And the reality is like to experience God's love in the midst of my inadequacy. I mean, how many men are like, yep, my name's Clint and I'm inadequate. All right, glad you're here. I'm like, yeah, I'm proud of it. Like, totally inadequate, relying on Jesus every day. And like that's become my new identity, right? All the side effects of this journey are a deeper confidence in Christ, a deeper understanding of my true identity. My identity that, yes, God made me to be dependent on Him. And that when I live in that dependency, there is so much power, like legit, profound power. Power in how I parent, power in how I show up with community and people. There's a level of confidence, Matt, I've never had in my whole life. Confidence to do things that I never did out of confidence. I did out of like, "Oh my gosh, I'm horrible. I'm gonna mess this up. I
Yeah.
can't do it." And now there's this subtle like, "Wow, Lord, thank you for giving me this gift." I just was asked to lead worship for a group of campers for my kids' school. I used to be so scared, Matt, just to do anything in front of people, and I just thought, "Oh man, this is gonna be terrible." And I still had a lack of confidence around it, but I thought, "All right, Jesus, you're my confidence." Right? Like I'm asked to lead worship. It's just music. I'm just gonna sing to you, and if they wanna join in, they're gonna join in, right? That's what I was like, "All right." That was my ultimatum. I'm like, "All right, God, you're just gonna work through this if you want to." And people were like, "That was incredible, and it was so good." And I don't really I mean, that's great. But the point was like, I had confidence that this is how God made me. I can live in that identity of the gifts that He's given me. I don't need to have a false sense of humility. I can be grateful for them. I can live in them. I can show up to my wife and I can say, "Hey, I have some needs. I need some personal space today. I need to go on a walk. I need this." I can voice my needs. I can listen to her needs. I'm not always trying to be somebody in everybody else's eyes because my whole life I felt like everybody's opinion of me mattered so much, man, so much. And
Yeah.
today I feel like I live for an audience of one. Not all the time, not perfectly, but overarchingly, yeah. Yeah, my life is Jesus's, and that's good enough for me.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. Charity, can you talk to the neuroscience of it? Clinton mentioned that earlier, and a lot of people don't understand the neuroscience on both sides, right?
Yeah,
And how that can play a role in all this. So can you talk to that?
sure. Yeah, well, once we realized chemically what was going on in our brain, both individually, because both of us were going through like very different things, but chemically, what was going on in my brain was, I mean, I started to experience PTSD, which I had never. It felt honestly, it felt very weak to admit that because I had already gone through traumatic things before. And
Mm,
so I didn't even like admitting it. But when I was reading all the symptoms, I was like, dang it, like I am experiencing symptoms of like PTSD. It's similar to a war vet.
Yeah.
And once I finally got some language and education around that, I was able to communicate that to Clint to then be able to, okay, then now that I know this, then how can I help it? Right. And
mm,
so I think if we continue to treat things without really knowing what's going on, then we're not really going to treat it. And so for me, I really had to understand, okay, you triggers, trauma, what happened in my brain, create new neural pathways. There was so much that really needed some healing and reshaping to really help me understand, okay, this is what I do when I'm feeling triggered. I am experiencing, a trauma response right now. So what do I need to do to get grounded again? And vice versa. I mean, for Clinton, it was so important for me to understand chemically what happened to his brain when he was
mm,
looking at pornography. The chemical concoction that goes on, we call it like a chemical cocktail. But some people even say that it's, when you look at pornography, I mean, from the start of it to the very end of it, I mean, it's as powerful as a drug of like cocaine or heroin. And when I understood that, so much of me started having compassion and really respect for the drug. And what I mean by that is, okay, this isn't just going to be like, why can't he stop? It really gave me an understanding and a language to go, this is going to take time. This is going to require effort. This is going to require healing. There's going to be a detoxification process. This isn't just like a one and done. And sometimes that happens for people and awesome. Praise God for that, but that just wasn't our story. And so it really gave me a healthy respect, understanding, okay, we're going to have to invest money, like we're going to have to go see therapists. We're going to have to get around community. We're going to have to do things to really gain an understanding of ourselves and to retrain our brain and we rewire our brain. And I love the Lord because the Lord and the Bible backs all this up. That's why it's good to understand all of it. Like God built all of it. It's all important. And it's so much of this is scriptural. And I mean, it literally says that to renew our minds, right? And to fill our brain with truth, and that he gives us neuroplasticity in our brain, which means that we can literally renew our minds with new thoughts, new pathways. And so what once was doesn't have to be anymore because we can be transformed by our thoughts and by scripture. But it takes time. And
Yeah.
so I think it really gave us both a healthy respect for understanding the process of recovery. And it gave us an understanding of each other's journey and what it was going to take to really, I mean, rewire our brain. And I'll never forget when Clinton came home and he told me that he had learned that from his therapist that the moment he started looking at pornography was the moment that his emotional maturity stopped. And I was like, great. So I'm married to a 13-year-old. This is just awesome. I have a 13-year-old. I have
One
a
year old.
2-year-old and I have a,
1 year old at the time.
1-year-old. Like, this is fantastic. Now I say that joking, but there was also like,
Kind of.
yeah, but I was so grateful for that perspective
Yeah.
because I didn't understand why my husband comes home from a therapist appointment and he's sitting at the table and he's going through a bag of hot Cheetos. Then he's getting ice cream. Then he pours a glass of wine. And I'm like, what is going on with you right now? Like, and he's like, I don't even know, but like, it's because he was learning how to build his emotional maturity, emotional resilience. He had never learned that before. It got shut off because when he felt emotions, he ran to pornography. So there was a healthy respect and a level of understanding, wow, my husband's not going to be perfect after he goes to group. He's going to need intense therapy. He's going to need scripture. He's going to need Jesus.
It's going to take time to
It's going to
mature.
take time.
Yeah.
Yes, journaling. I mean, all of it. I
Yeah.
could go on and on, but those were some examples that I
About
feel
how
like,
immature I was?
yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
I was going to say, you're at least 19, 20 years old now.
At
So-
least. I mean, 1920 is great, you know?
Good news is when you have a therapist and you have good community in Jesus, the age gap
Is it accelerated?
It accelerates really, really
I'd like some
big.
proof on that, but I think I would agree with that.
There you go.
That's so true. I think the reality is, like, again, porn is not the biggest problem,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
a problem. It's a problem for sure. Hands down, no doubt about that. But in order to experience restoration, you need a lot more than behaviors to change. And you need understanding, deep understanding. Once Charity knew, like, wow, this even if Clint can get rid of pornography, he has a lot of growing to do, right? There began this sense of, okay, I need to have grace for the growing. And I think that was true for me as well. Like, okay, even if my behaviors change and pornography stops, my wife is going to have a healing journey. That she's going to have to grow in safety and in trust, and she's going to have triggers. And I don't need to get all defensive because of her trigger, right? Her trigger does not mean I did anything wrong. It's just simply a byproduct of the journey that I have put on her. And so I think there's even that sense of like, okay, I want to help her as much as I can because I induced it, right? A lot of the trauma that I created was induced by me and my actions, my choices. So I think the whole course was designed to help couples understand that hey, there's going to be a journey here and you can grow together in that journey. Or Matt, too often, I mean, this is kind of like depressing news, but the reality is that that journey can grow couples apart too. If they don't have the right tools, the right perspective, the problem that we saw, the whole reason, the whole heart behind Restored to More is that we saw too many couples thankfully willing to experience recovery, but too many of them didn't experience restoration in their relationship. The recovery journey grew them apart instead of growing them together because they didn't know how to understand the spouse's response and what they were going to go through.
Yeah. How would you recommend to a man who has hurt his wife to get her on board to come and see you guys go through this course and go on the journey together?
So good, man. I wish I had like hey man, just slip her this pill real quick. Okay. just put this in a brownie, give it to her at night. You know, that'd be great. I think that's a better question for Charity than it is for me because
Well, I mean, the other side of it is true too. Like, what if a wife is listening to this and going like, "Oh, I want my husband on board." So,
Yeah.
okay, let me see here. All right. So what would I tell a guy's listening to this and he's like, yes, amen. But you don't understand. My wife won't come with me to this course. It's so common, Matt. It's so common. I can't tell you how many times we get an email that's like, man, I want to do your course, but my wife doesn't want to. I think the first thing that guy can do, because he can't force her. He can't force her to do it, right? That's just not a reality. The reality is that he can start the really, I think the thing that turns a wife's heart on towards her spouse is one, him experiencing heart recovery. Like when his heart starts to recover and heal, she will undoubtedly see the change in his life. He'll become somebody different. Can she have the choice to stay bitter and stay hard and not forgive and not choose to see it? Yeah, she can. So can he if he's the betrayed spouse, right? I mean, it just can be the response. I'd say the first thing is him going on his own journey for sure and going, all right, like I got to own what I can change. I love that serenity prayer, having the courage to change what I can, right? And then there's the other piece that even if you're not in a course that's teaching you about betrayal trauma and the guy is the unfaithful spouse, I would say learn about what she's going through. Because if you take time to educate yourself on her responses are going to make more sense to you. And the education leads to empathy. So the chances of him having any empathy, if he has zero education for what she's gone through, it's pretty slim to none. But if he can start the journey at least of educating himself on why her responses are the way they are and how they make perfect sense, then at least he can show up with empathy and compassion in his marriage in a way that he probably hasn't in the past.
Good answer. I like it. Probably a lot of that is the same on the flip side too, but I'm wondering if there's any other thoughts that you had, Charity.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say the same thing. It's very much like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I think that it is so much more about you becoming the person that God's calling you to and just praying for your spouse, like praying that they would have a heart change, praying that they would see the changes in you, to allow them to not have this hard heart so that they can go on the healing journey with you. And I think that is like the biggest thing is you growing and changing, being responsible for you. Because at the end of the day, again, I'll say this over and over again, but when you go to heaven, God's going to be asking you about you. He's not going to be asking you about your spouse.
Mm.
He's going to talk to your spouse when it's their time to talk to Christ. And I just think for me, I'm like, hey, worry about you. Worry about what God is calling you to. And what does he want you to steward, and then pray for your spouse. Like that's like the biggest recommendation is praying for them, praying that they would have this heart of change and surrender so that they would do the work necessary to heal for themselves.
Yeah.
Amazing. So good, guys. Where can people find you, and also how do people get enrolled in the course? Does it go to churches, small groups? How do people get started?
Yeah. So everything is restored 2 more with the number 2. Our Instagram, podcast, website, all of that. And our course is being led by couples all over the world, actually. So we have a group. We have a couple in South Africa, Paraguay. We have some couples leading in Idaho, California, East Coast. So I would say just go on our website and look at finding a group and seeing if there's a leader near you. And if there's not, you can always reach out to us on our Ask Us Anything page.
Yeah.
And we'll get you plugged in.
Yeah.
Amazing. Love it, guys. Thanks so much for spending the time. And we got here before your kids started barging into the room and
Right.
able to wrap up. So thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Matt, I can't thank you enough. I just want to say, man, we are so grateful for the work that you do. Obviously, we share that passion for the word restored, right? And restored
Yep.
in both of our ministry names. And we
That's
just know that God's doing a great work through everything you're doing. And we're just so grateful. We're so grateful for giving us the chance to talk about all that God's doing in our marriage and the marriages of so many others. But we just want to commend you, man. We just affirm all that God has doing in your heart and through you. And we're grateful to be a part of it and witness it, Matt. So thanks again for the chance to talk and the chance to be here with you big time.
Yeah, thanks. Well, me too. I remember before we met, I heard about you guys and I saw the website and I was like, man, we're restored and they're restored to more. Like, do they do more than we do? What's going on here? I'm totally kidding. I never thought that till now, but I remember seeing the website and it's cool. So, all right, guys, have a great one. And if you want more info, description is where you can find it all. And I highly recommend it. Catch you next time. To keep learning about how Jesus-centered sexuality was designed by God to transform your life like it has for me and so many other people, make sure you subscribe for more content. And if you have any form of sexual bondage in your life, whether it's pornography or sexual abuse or sexual betrayal that you've suffered, make sure you check the description for options for your support.